Hey everyone, it's Davy Mooney coming to you from the University of North Texas, where I run the jazz guitar program, Benedetto artist, Sunnyside Records artist, got my CD, live at National Sawdust, and a few others, like 3 more on that amazing label. Got my improv book, Personalizing Jazz Vocabulary, and today I want to talk about the tune Girl From Ipanema. So this tune is very popular, and it's kind of iconic, I think, and as a jazz musician, playing social gigs, you get requests for this tune all the time. Maybe why Oscar Peterson recorded it on his album, We Get Requests. And jazz musicians tend to be a little bit contrarian at times, and so there's sort of an undercurrent of, oh man, you gotta play Girl From Ipanema for these people that aren't hip. But to me, this is one of my favorite tunes ever, and I think the bridge of this song is like some of the most beautiful 16 bars of music ever written. So I want to talk about it a little bit and just go through the harmony. So funny thing is, I learned this tune like many of the tunes I learned, people of my generation. I learned it from the real book, the original illegal real book. You had to pay, it was $35 in cash. People would have it under the counter at the music store. So it was kind of an illicit little thrill that you were getting this information. It's the forbidden book. But it was in F in there. And if you go back and listen to the very famous recording of João Gilberto and Astrid Gilberto and Stan Getz, it's in D flat. And Oscar Peterson does it in D flat on We Get Requests. And I'm not sure, maybe there's a very famous version in F that I'm not thinking about. But it's one of those things that, like I said, my generation, I learned it from the real book, it was in there in F, and so I kind of learned it in F, and on gigs, people tend to play it in F. But, so the A section, it's kind of like Take the A Train in a way. The one thing that's interesting about that original recording of João Gilberto is he kind of plays this chord. And you can't really tell at the beginning if that's an A flat, 6/9, or a D flat. Because he often will play, I've got a 7-string guitar, so it's kind of strange to see. But he'll also play, the bass note, whatever the low note that he's playing, will be on the 6th string. So you get this kind of to a E flat 7, E flat minor, but again he's playing these chords to A flat 7 with his low notes on the 6th string, so it's kind of interesting sound. So in F, that's F major for 2 bars, G9 for 2 bars, G minor to F sharp 7, or maybe F sharp 6, like João Gilberto plays, back to F. And that's the A section. Although, people play this tune so much that there's a lot of different variations on the chords and reharmonizations. One that I like a lot is from a live CD I bought of Vinicius de Moraes and Toquinho in Argentina, I think, sometime in the 60s. And they actually played in D, which is even more confusing. So I'm gonna do it in F from now on, just because that's kind of the standard key. But what they do, just on the first A, they go F, G, 7, G minor, and then they go to, just on the first ending, they go like G minor, C7, A flat major for 2 bars. Back to F. Which is also something I've heard people do on the tune I Remember You, where they go, not the Skid Row song, the jazz standard. Playing it in F, they would go, does a 2/5 to the 4, then it goes 4 minor, back to 1, but some people will go 4 minor to A flat major, and then a 2/5 back to 1. That's kind of fun. So I actually, when I play Ipanema, I try to throw that chord. If I'm on a gig, I'm like, let's play A flat in the first ending, just to kind of mix it up. So then the bridge is really where it's at for me. It's so beautiful, and it's kind of unpredictable. I don't know exactly where. I'm sure there's a source, some inspiration for the harmonic movement in this bridge. So usually on the original, so you've resolved to, I'm going to do it in the key of F, right? So you've resolved to F. In the original, they go up to like a G flat major 7. Although I remember playing this tune on a gig with James Singleton, great New Orleans bass player, years ago, and we had to play Ipanema for some, I don't know, it was requested or something, as it often happens on a gig. And James was said, hey, for the first chord of the bridge, play E flat minor 9. And he was like, well then, as we shall see, there's a symmetry to the harmonic movement. But let's talk about the original for a second. So G flat major, you go up a half step, and you have this down to B7, then G flat minor. And on these chords, you can kind of make them be sort of melodic minor-ish. You know, again, I'm a product of the 90s, and that I learned a lot of tunes from the real book before I knew that was bad to do. And also, you know, melodic minor harmony, y'all. I still like the sound of it. So, you know, you could go like, maybe you wouldn't do that on the first chord. But that sound can definitely have, it could be like, that B7 could be B Lydian dominant, aka G flat melodic minor, then you're actually on a G flat minor chord, then to a D7, which is kind of interesting. But you could also probably make melodic minor and make D Lydian dominant, so A flat melodic minor, then G minor to E flat 7, A minor, so 3, 6, 2, 5. Get you back to, in the key of F, get you back to F. And then for the last A, there's a lot of variations. I remember, I looked for this clip before I made this video and I couldn't find it. I remember watching the movie The Fabulous Baker Boys sometime in the 90s and seeing that on the last A, they kind of do, there's some version of this where they go up. So you could go back to F and just play the same thing you played on the first A, but what they do is like B minor 7 flat 5, to B flat 7, to A minor, to I guess A flat augmented. Again, I haven't watched this in years, but that popped into my head. I couldn't find the clip. I guess I'd have to rent the movie or something or buy it. And that would take you to G7. But I also like, what I like to do sometimes is for the last A section, I don't know where I got this from, but play D minor, just for 2 bars, to G7. So just the relative minor of F, and then go to G7. Oh, but I realized I sort of forgot talking about that E flat minor in the bridge. I think the reason James asked me to do that is, so instead of G flat to B7 to G flat minor to D7, the first chord is E flat minor. It's like a minor chord going down a major third to B7. Then the next thing is a minor chord, G flat minor, going down a major third to D7. Another minor chord going down a major third to E flat 7. So you have a little bit of symmetry, even though, you know, like I said, it's kind of mysterious to me. I mean, that particular progression, I guess, I think that's kind of a Wagnerian thing. Like, I've used it a lot. I think I've used it a lot getting it from Tom Jobim, because he uses that also in Gene G, the song where he goes. But in that case, it's that major third descent, but it's not a minor to a dominant. So I don't know, it's just really beautiful to me, that bridge. So then, you know, that last part, I'll play D minor sometimes to G7, and the 2-5 to F. And so I guess another thing worth mentioning on this tune is a little bit about how I've come to the way I think about trying to play a bossa nova rhythm on guitar. And it's one of those things, you know, I'm not from Brazil, but, you know, I have a lot of connections to Brazil. My wife's from there, and I go there a lot. Although when I go to Brazil, I play like modern jazz there. I never go there and play. Very rarely do I play much samba or bossa nova. So I don't have a pedigree, so to speak, although this style of guitar is so much a part of jazz. Interesting to think about at least João Gilberto and some things that he does. And I mean, he's a really amazing musician. His sense of rhythm and the way that he synthesized and interpreted, I guess, a lot of different styles onto the guitar that weren't necessarily all contained on the guitar, elements from larger ensembles and percussion instruments. And I won't get into it because I don't feel qualified to expound upon the history of where bossa nova guitar comes from. But I do know this, that at the beginning of Girl From Ipanema, he goes like, just that. And then he starts to work in some anticipations. exact transcription of what he does, but there's a video that maybe I'll put in the comments section or somewhere where you're watching this video of mine, where you can find it. There's a video YouTube of him playing Desafinado in a live concert, which is really great. I show it to all my students just to show kind of the basics of what he does. One thing is the bass is never syncopated. So if he's going, right, the chords are syncopated, but the bass is always on 1, 3, 1, 3. Or I guess if you're thinking of the music in 2/4, like a lot of sambas are, it's like the bass is on 2. Or I'm sorry, it's on 1. 1, 2. I guess 1 and 2. It's not syncopated. Is what I mean. Can't think in 2/4. It's hard for me to think in 2/4. All jazz is is in 4, or is it in 1? I don't know. Anyway, but so that video of Desafinado is great, so you can see what he's doing. But I think in trying to teach this to people, I kind of show them this basic pattern, Sometimes the next chord is anticipated. You'll get to the chord before you get to the bass note. So yeah, and in studying that a little bit and trying to look into it, I think a lot of it is based on like partito alto rhythm. But again, I just kind of got this from copying Joel Gilberto, listening to like Chico Buarque records, the guitar, and just trying to find a sort of a recurring rhythm a simplified rhythm that I could teach to my students. But it's kind of about the same way you learn jazz. You listen and you try to extrapolate from what someone does on one tune in one place, and it kind of snowballs from there. And at this point, I feel, I've done a lot of gigs playing sort of bossa nova guitar, so I guess it's not too offensive to people. But anyway, I'm going to play some choruses on the harmony of Girl From Ipanema, although I have this track that I put in 7, because in my improv class this semester we play this song, but it's in what we call our secondary repertoire. So we have our hard jazz tunes. It's our primary repertoire, like, I guess, what do you call it? 26-2, we did Countdown this semester, stuff like that. Wayne Shorter tunes, Thelonious Monk tunes. And then we take some standards and we mess with the key, we mess with the chords, we mess with the meter, stuff like that, and we investigate different versions. So this one, it'll be in F, but it's going to be in 7. And I'll play a few choruses, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, thanks.
Bye.